The sky above Varnus Prime burned red. The ground shook under constant bombardment. Sergeant Leon Carter moved through the broken street, his rifle raised, armor blackened by dust and fire. Smoke rose from every building. The air smelled of blood and melted metal. His squad was down to 7. They had been 100 when they landed. The Dominion had cut through every line, using weapons that twisted air and burned bone. Carter's earpiece crackled with static and half-broken voices. "Command says fall back to Zone 5, one soldier shouted through the noise. "There is no Zone 5 anymore," Carter said. His voice was flat. His eyes were fixed on the dark horizon. The alien war machines moved like shadows through the flames, their armor reflecting light in strange colors. Each step they took made the ground shake. The humans fired everything they had. Plasma rifles, rail charges, rockets. It didn't stop them. The Varn didn't fear death. They didn't even slow down. Carter ducked behind a broken wall and checked his ammo. "Last mag," he muttered. He looked around. The faces of his soldiers were covered in ash. No one spoke. They all knew what came next. "Sir," said Private Jones, his hands shaking, "they said they're bringing doom." Carter turned his head. "Say that again." "Doom, sir, the Varn weapon, the one that eats everything." Carter stared at the horizon. In the distance, the light changed. A black fog spread like a living shadow. Buildings began to collapse without sound. The ground cracked and vanished. Everything the fog touched disappeared. "Everyone back," Carter shouted. "Move now!" They ran through the ruins. The sound of the fog was not like wind. It was a slow hiss, like something breathing. The soldiers fired behind them even though they knew it was useless. The fog moved faster. A tank in front of them sank into the ground as if swallowed. The metal twisted, turned liquid, and was gone. The soldiers screamed. Carter pulled one of them by the arm, but the man slipped and vanished in front of him. His scream cut off like a wire snapped. Carter froze for a second. His hands trembled. He looked at the black wall of death moving toward him. The radio was full of voices begging for pickup, for help, for mercy. None came. He turned to the last 4 men. "This is it," he said. "We hold here." "Hold against that?" Jones shouted, pointing at the fog. Carter nodded once. "If we run, it eats the world. If we stand, maybe it eats us slower." They formed a line among the wrecks and ruins. The ground shook again. The fog reached the edge of their defense. Rifles fired. Explosions lit the smoke. The fog didn't care. One by one, the soldiers vanished into the black mass. Carter fired until his rifle clicked empty. He threw it aside and stood still. The fog stopped. It moved like it was thinking. Then it reached for him. Carter didn't move. He took one step forward. The black surface touched his armor and hissed. His visor shattered. The air burned his lungs. But he didn't die. He felt something enter his skin, like heat and ice at the same time. Pain filled his body. He screamed and dropped to his knees. The fog pulsed, glowing faintly red. The alien army paused in the distance, watching. The black mass climbed up his arms. His eyes turned dark. His scream changed into something else. A deep growl came from his chest. In the firelight, the alien general saw it. Their weapons stopped spreading. It began to twist, pulling back toward the human. Carter stood, his body shaking, his hands burning with black fire. The radio went silent. Then a single voice came through. "Command, the Doom stopped moving. The human is still alive." The sky over Varnus Prime turned gray after the fire. The black fog had stopped moving. The alien armies stood still, watching the man they were sure was dead. Sergeant Leon Carter was alive, standing in the center of the ruins. The weapon they called Doom was wrapped around him like armor made of smoke. No one moved, no one spoke. The air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. On the Dominion command ship above the planet, General Kareth watched the image on the screen. The creature in human form looked up as if he could see them. Kareth turned to his aides. That thing was human. Now it is something else. Down below, Carter opened his eyes. His visor was gone, his helmet cracked, his face marked by black veins that pulsed under his skin. His armor melted into his body, reshaped by the strange living substance. He felt heat running through every nerve. The pain was still there, but it no longer broke him. He could hear the alien soldiers whispering. Their voices sounded clear in his head, as if they were standing next to him. He walked forward slowly. The ground under his boots hardened into black glass. A plasma bolt shot at him from one of the alien rifles. The bolt hit his chest, burned bright, then vanished inside the black layer on his skin. Carter looked down at the small glow fading on his armor. He didn't feel fear. He only felt control. He raised his hand and the black layer on the ground rippled outward like a wave. It swallowed the alien line in seconds. Their screams echoed through the ruins. When the sound ended, the wave stopped moving. The humans on the radio heard it all. "Is that Carter?" one voice said. "He's killing them, with their own weapon." In orbit, human command ships picked up the signal. Carter's life signs were still active. Captain Holt stared at the data screen. "Get a visual feed. I want to see him." A drone flew through the smoke. It found Carter walking through the battlefield. Dead aliens lay in his path, turned to stone and dust. The black material covering him moved like it was alive. Holt's voice trembled as he spoke. "Jesus, what happened to you, Sergeant?" Carter turned his head toward the drone as if he heard it. His voice came through the comms, low and steady. "I can stop them, but it's not me anymore." Static filled the channel. Then silence. On the Dominion side, panic spread. The Varn scientists shouted over each other. "It should not bond with human tissue. It cannot be controlled. Kill him now before it adapts." General Kareth gave the order. "Orbital strike. Erase the entire zone." The alien warship above Varnus Prime turned its main cannon toward the surface. The sky flashed white. The ground split open. Everything burned again. When the smoke cleared, the crater stretched for miles. The human line was gone. The sensors showed no life signs. The Dominion officers relaxed, thinking it was done. Then one of the scanners flickered. A signal blinked inside the crater. A heartbeat. Carter climbed out from the rubble, his armor glowing like coal. His eyes burned red. The black substance covered him completely now, shaped into something close to human, but stronger. His voice came through the air like thunder. "You failed." He looked up at the alien ship in the sky. He clenched his fists. The black material pulsed. The clouds above began to twist. The ground shook again. In orbit, alarms went off on every ship. The Dominion's weapon had just changed its target. And now it was listening to a human. The Dominion fleet fired again, but nothing reached the ground. The blasts broke apart mid-air, twisted by something unseen. Sergeant Leon Carter stood in the middle of the wasteland, surrounded by the black mist that now obeyed his every move. He looked up, his eyes glowing red under the smoke. The voice of General Kareth shouted through the Dominion command deck. "Increase power! Hit him again!" The ship's cannon roared. The beam struck down like lightning, but the energy folded in half before touching the surface. It turned back toward the fleet. One ship exploded, then another. The crew screamed as their own fire destroyed them. Carter felt the impact in his chest like thunder, but it didn't hurt. The black layer around him moved on its own, hungry, ready to spread. He took a step forward. The ground melted under his boots. The weapon was alive, and it wanted more. Human Command watched the scene from orbit. On the bridge of the flagship Valor, Captain Holt leaned forward. "That thing's not just protecting him, it's learning." "Can we talk to him?" asked one officer. Holt shook his head. "He's not answering. He's heading toward the Dominion fortress, alone." The fortress was a tower of metal that reached into the clouds. Hundreds of alien troops guarded it, and anti-air guns covered every level. They watched the radar. One single signal moved straight toward them. "Ground teams, fire at will," ordered the alien commander. Every cannon on the fortress opened fire. Missiles filled the air. The explosions turned the sky white. When the smoke cleared, Carter was still walking. His armor glowed brighter. The doom substance around him flared and shot forward like black lightning, cutting through walls, tearing apart soldiers, melting the ground. The screams of the dying filled the comms. Kareth watched from his tower window. "So, this is the power humans hide," he said quietly. "Now I understand why they scare the stars." Carter reached the main gate. He didn't kick it down. It melted before him. Inside, the halls were filled with smoke and sparks. Alien bodies lay scattered, armor burned away. The black fog moved along the walls like it was searching. He found Kareth standing in the command hall, tall and armored, with a plasma sword in each hand. Kareth spoke first. "You have become the weapon you came to destroy." Carter stopped a few feet away. "Maybe, but I can still choose where it points." They moved at the same time. Kareth's blades cut through the air, leaving trails of fire. Carter caught both swords in his hands. The black layer swallowed the metal and turned it to dust. He grabbed Kareth by the throat and threw him across the room. Kareth hit the wall hard but stood again. "You think this ends with me? Doom has no master. You are just its shell." Carter looked at his own hands. The black matter pulsed like a heartbeat. He could feel it whispering, offering power, begging to be free. He clenched his fists, fighting it. "I'm no shell," he said. He drove his hand into the wall console. The fortress alarm screamed. The black energy spread through the circuits. Every system on the Dominion base went dark. Above the planet, the Dominion fleet lost control. Ships drifted out of orbit, their lights dying one by one. In the command chamber, Kareth stared at Carter. "You'll kill us all." Carter looked back at him. "That's the idea." The fortress began to collapse. Flames and debris filled the air. Carter walked toward Kareth one last time, but the floor cracked open between them. He fell into darkness, swallowed by the black storm. When the explosion ended, the entire fortress was gone. In orbit, human sensors showed a single energy reading rising from the surface. It was moving toward the sky. Captain Holt whispered, "He's still alive." The blast from the Dominion fortress left a burning scar across Varnus Prime. The air glowed with ash. Human scanners tracked a single signal rising from the planet's surface. It was Leon Carter. He broke through the clouds and crashed into the side of the human flagship Valor like a meteor. The hull screamed from impact. Security teams rushed to the crash bay. When the smoke cleared, Carter stood in the center of the crater, alive, covered in the black living armor that still moved across his body. His eyes were dull red, his breathing slow and heavy. Captain Holt arrived with soldiers at his back. "Hold fire," he said. "That's Sergeant Carter." Carter looked at him. His voice was rough, deeper than before. "It's me, but not all of me." Med teams tried to scan him, but their devices failed. The doom substance blocked every signal. The medics stepped back, afraid. Carter could feel it, the fear spreading through the room. The soldiers who once followed him now looked at him like he was a bomb. "Put him in containment," Holt ordered. They moved him into a glass chamber inside the ship's lab. Thick walls. No exits. Carter sat down on the metal floor and stared at his reflection. The black armor shifted slowly like smoke under his skin. He felt his pulse slow, then speed up again. It was hard to tell where he ended, and it began. A scientist named Dr. Keller stepped close to the glass. "We need to understand it," she said. "If we can control it, we can win this war." Carter's eyes met hers. "No one controls it. You try, it eats you." Keller didn't listen. Her team activated scanners. The black armor pulsed once, then burst outward. The glass cracked. The lab alarms screamed. Soldiers opened fire through the viewing ports. Bullets and plasma burned against the air but didn't reach him. The black mist soaked the energy, feeding on it. Carter stood inside the storm he created. "I told you to stop," he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. The blast threw everyone to the floor. When the smoke cleared, Carter stood free. The doom armor settled again, forming around him like calm water. The soldiers aimed their rifles, but Captain Holt shouted, "Stand down!" Carter looked at Holt. "You saw what it can do. If this spreads, no one survives. Not us, not them." Holt's face was tight with fear. "Then what's the plan?" Carter looked out the viewport. The stars glowed red. "I end it. At the source." Dr. Keller stood up, shaking. "The Varn homeworld? That's suicide." Carter turned toward her. "It's worse if I stay." Minutes later, he walked toward the launch bay. Every soldier watched in silence as he passed. The black armor covered him fully now, shaping into a form like living metal. His footsteps left burn marks on the floor. Holt followed him to the airlock. "You saved billions already. Don't throw that away." Carter stopped. "This isn't saving. It's cleaning up what we started." He opened the hatch. The pull of space roared outside. The doom armor wrapped tighter around him, protecting him from the void. Holt watched as Carter looked back one last time. "Tell Earth I'm not coming back," he said. Then he launched himself into space, heading straight for the enemy fleet that blocked the stars. The Dominion ships opened fire, filling the void with light. Carter cut through it like a blade. The black substance around him flared brighter, alive, and angry. From the bridge of the Valor, Holt whispered, "God help us." The sensors flashed red. The Varn home fleet was moving to intercept, and Carter was heading right toward them. The stars burned white as Carter entered the battlefield. Thousands of alien ships formed a wall before him. Their cannons lit up the dark, turning space into fire. He moved through it like a storm. The doom armor swallowed each blast and sent it back as waves of black energy. Ships broke apart. Metal screamed in silence. Inside the Dominion flagship, General Kareth watched the destruction spread across his fleet. His officers shouted reports. Whole wings were gone in seconds. The screens flickered with static and screams. "It feeds on energy," said one of them. "Every hit makes it stronger." Kareth's claws tore into the console. "Then we stop firing." But it was too late. Carter was already there. He landed on the hull of the flagship. The impact sent cracks through the armor plate. His hands burned with black fire. He tore through the metal like it was paper and dropped inside. The corridors were filled with smoke and alarms. Varn soldiers ran toward him, shouting war cries. He moved fast, silent, unstoppable. Each shot they fired was eaten by the armor. He reached out, and the walls melted around him. The ship itself began to scream. He followed the sound of command voices until he reached the bridge. The doors opened by themselves. Kareth stood waiting, his armor glowing red, a plasma blade in each hand. Carter stopped a few feet away. The two enemies faced each other again. "You killed thousands of my people," Kareth said. "You think you can erase us?" Carter's voice was calm. "You erased yourselves when you made this thing. I'm just ending it." Kareth roared and attacked. The plasma blades cut through the air, sparks flying. Carter caught the first strike with his hand. The black armor ate the energy, then shattered the blade. Kareth swung again, fast, furious. Carter dodged and slammed his hand into Kareth's chest. The doom substance spread from his palm into the alien's body. Kareth screamed as his armor dissolved. "You think you control it, human?" he gasped. "You are its food." Carter's grip tightened. "Then I'll starve it." The black matter flared. It spread across the bridge, tearing through consoles and steel. The ship began to break apart from the inside. Outside, the rest of the Dominion fleet started to die. Every ship linked to the flagship burned with the same dark light. Human command watched from a distance. The Valor's crew saw a flash of black swallow the stars, then fade to gray. "Signal lost," said the sensor officer. "No life signs, no ships, nothing." Captain Holt stared at the screen. He did it. But deep inside the wreckage, something still moved. Carter stood in the ruins of the flagship. The doom armor had grown wild. It covered every surface. It pulsed with his heartbeat. The voices of the Varn echoed inside his head, blending with something older, darker. He felt the weapon fighting him, trying to take control. He dropped to his knees. His voice shook. "You wanted to eat everything. Fine. Eat me." He opened his mouth and drew in the last core of doom. The air turned white. The armor screamed as it vanished into him. The light spread across the system, then went silent. On the human flagship, sensors picked up a single energy wave moving away from the Varn world. Then all readings went dark. Years passed, the war ended. The Dominion was gone. No one ever found Carter's body. But on abandoned planets, soldiers told stories. Black handprints burned into stone, craters shaped like footprints that led to no one. They said when new wars began, the stars flickered red for a second. And that was when the old soldiers whispered his name, the human who ate their doom.